In today's video, we're going to jump inside of Cinema 4D and Octane Render. I'm going to give you some of my Octane Render quick tips. Let's go. Hey guys, this is Dave, aka David Brodeur, aka Locked and Loading, aka Brody, aka I don't know, I don't have any more names. I am giving you a tutorial today here with Greyscalegorilla, and we are going to jump into Octane, and I've got Octane quick tips for you. So if you're familiar with any of my work, you can obviously tell I am currently obsessed with Octane Render. My favorite render engine, just makes work so beautiful. I've been wanting to come out with another tutorial to give you guys, but I didn't want to just feel like it was forced. So over the past few months, I've just been taking notes, coming up with little Octane quick tips and things that maybe I've come across that can help speed up your workflow, things that I just wish someone showed me right off the bat. We're going to start out really basic, some real simple little things, little annoyances that I've kind of worked through, and then we'll kind of get a little bit more complex towards the end. So we've got a few of them here. Let's not waste any more time. Let's have some fun, jump into Octane. Let's do it. All right, Octane quick tip number 1, material refresh. This is going to be a super quick little tip here, and let's just jump into it. Okay, so material refresh. So you'll notice right here that we've got 3 materials. These 2 materials build up this mixed material, but this mixed material is not showing up in our preview. It's showing up like plain white, where it should be showing up as a mixture between these 2, just as these 2 are showing up, right? If we open up these 2 materials, you'll see that, it's exactly how we want for all of them, right? But this material here, this mixed material, for some reason, it's just showing up blank. How do we solve this issue? How do we solve that it's showing up white here and white here? Sometimes we'll notice that the material in this material editor view is visible, but down here in the material window, it's not. So how do we fix it? Very simple. Right click on this material window, and just like that, when it refreshes, you will now see it at the bottom. All right, so Octane quick tip number 2. This one will be super fast, just like the other one. This is hair emission. So let's jump into the project here. All right, so we all know when you want to have a spline render in Octane, you need to put on the Octane object tag, right? And I have checked on render as hair. So without that checked on, we won't have anything. So you got to make sure you check that on, but I'm assuming you already know that. So if we want this to actually light up, how would we do that, right? If I just put on a material on this, we're not going to get anything, but let's open up our node editor here, and let's grab ourselves a black body emission, and let's plug this in to the emission object here, node. And once we do that, you'll see nothing is happening. We're getting no changes. But if you check on surface brightness, just like that, now we have our object lighting up. It's just that simple. Okay, so Octane quick tip number 3, fake shadows. So as I mentioned in the beginning, these are going to get a little bit more complex as we go. The fake shadows is the next step. So have you ever started working and building like a light bulb, and the filament inside that light bulb you want to actually have light up your scene? This can be tricky sometimes. If you've done it and you're getting no results, it can be really annoying and frustrating. So I figured it out, and now I want to show you guys. All right, so let's set up the live viewer here, and so we can see that right now we're not really getting any of our emission from our object. So if we open up our materials here, I'll just show you what we actually have. Let's open up the node editor. So really the light itself is just a black body emission, and that is emitting light. But the weird thing is it doesn't matter how much power we give this. Let's give it 100. You'll see that it's not lighting up our objects right now, no matter. Let's put it at 1,000, right? This is having no change on the surface of these other objects. I'm going to dial this back. My scene's pretty low here, so I know I can get away with just something really, really low like 2. But let's now check this out. Now this happens within the glass material itself. So let's open up this glass material, and I just have this little smudge material on here just to give this glass a little bit better of reflections and appearance. And then inside this glass here, what we need to check on, it's all within the specular material, is fake shadows. And when you check on fake shadows just like that, it allows the glass to be seen as a transparent object with light. So now our black body emission on this filament here is allowing it to go through this outer glass material. But without that being checked on, you're never going to get it to light up the objects in your scene and put shadows on them. So very important, but just one little click. Okay, so quick tip number 4 for Octane, fog animation. Let's jump into it. All right, so right now all I have is a volume container and a sky, right? And so this is in our live viewer here. You can see there's really nothing too special to this. All I did was make a plain volume container here. Let's just do it together just so you see that nothing else has been done. Octane volume, and I'm just gonna make this 200 by 200, just a little square. Okay, so animating fog, there's no real way of doing it within Octane itself. You can load VDB files, which is a way a lot of people do it. But I was coming up with a lot of different tricks for a project that I was working on where I wanted to actually have the fog animate throughout. And one of the ways is simply just keyframing it slowly on one of the axes. But that's not really, the fog itself doesn't transform, and that's really what gives it the look that it's animating. You can get away with it. I actually got away with that because it was just short scenes and it wasn't enough time to actually see the individual turbulence in the fog transforming. But I did come up with a way while I was working on that. So let's start it. So in the texture itself, you may have tried adding noise before, right? So let's just add noise. And we know that the noise has these animation controls, right? Animation speed and movement. And so you think, hey, I can just do something simple like that. So I'm just gonna increase the contrast here, and I'm gonna also increase the global scale. Just so we get some like variation within this. And let's just change the type of noise. I'm probably going to add a little bit more contrast as well. Yeah, there we go, just so we can see more depth and dimension to this. So you might have thought, hey, let me just change the animation speed here. Let's give this, I'm just going to really increase it because I know this doesn't work. And let's say, hey, we're going to move this all these directions. This thing's really going to be moving, right? Wrong. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. You can see, even as I play it, it doesn't have any effect. If I rendered this out, let's just put this over in here, you can see that each frame is in fact the same. So none of these controls are actually changing the way the, not reading the animation of that noise. But like I said, I found a way. So let me stop this render here. Yeah, right. You can see as I play, there's nothing animating, which kind of sucks because that would be awesome if that little noise volume worked. And so how do we do this? So in the texture itself, I'm going to change it from just this plain noise to a layer. And in this layer, I'm going to go to Effect, and I'm going to go to Distort. And the cool thing here is we can actually keyframe this layer. And I'm going to keyframe the time scale of this. So at frame 0, I'm going to make a keyframe here. And then at all the way down at frame 72, I'm going to change this to, I don't know, it doesn't really matter, to 1. And you're going to see as I kind of play through, or I can just step through, you can see that it's slightly evolving in our little window here. And this will, in fact, render. So let's hit render on this, and let's see what this does. So we're going to be able to see that this is going to have a slight evolution to it. And obviously you can do less or more, however extreme you want this to be, to have that kind of change over time per your animation. So I'll let it render just a little bit more here, and then we'll play through it. All right, cool. I'm going to stop this and let's just play. It's only got to 23 frames, but you'll get the idea, right? And so now we have moving fog volume, which is awesome. So start playing with that. There's a lot of different things you can do. Okay, Octane quick tip number 5, HDRI sky and scene lighting. Okay, let's just jump right in here. So something that I noticed a lot is people that use HDRI, artists that use HDRIs, will only use an HDRI to light their scene. And I've discovered that this is not the best way to light your scene. You don't have that much control over it, and you're kind of just stuck with whatever that HDRI gives you. So how do we get more control, and how do we make our images look better? I get asked a question all the time about how I light my scenes and how I render my scenes and things like that. And so this is we're going to go through step by step how I actually do that. So let's start off with the Octane Sky object, and I'm going to go in here, grab the HDRI link. I don't get paid to use the HDRI link. I just absolutely love it. So if you haven't checked it out, definitely check it out. In the Paradise Studio, let's just grab something that I know is going to give some like harsh, extreme shadows. You know, something where the sun is higher up. Let's add that in the scene, and let me put my live window over here. All right. Let's just change the scale of this. Cool. Okay, so we can see we're getting a little bit of cast shadows from this. That's kind of what I wanted here. Let's change this from resolution just a preview, just so it loads nice and quick for us. We can jump in, and if we increase the power, perfect. We can see where these shadows are kind of falling. I'm gonna rotate this guy around, something like this. Okay, cool. So let me just get out of my camera view here. So we see what's happening. This looks right. I mean, I like this. I'm happy with this. But here's the problem. If I want to change any aspect of the lighting, I'm really kind of just limited to the power and X and Y rotation. And I'd really like to have even more control. Obviously I can jump in and I can start changing the gamma on this. I don't want to do that though. So how else can we play with this? Well, okay, I'm going to show a couple different things here. This is what I do all the time. If you go into your objects, and now we want to choose the Octane Daylight. Okay, so when we add the daylight in, it automatically overrides our Octane Sky. Anytime if I were to put in a texture environment, that would have overrode the Octane Sky as well. So the Octane Daylight, if we click this, we can see that nothing here is really happening yet. With the override, because this Octane Sky, they're not blending. But if we check on the mix sky texture here, now we are blending between both of them. So let's hop into the Octane Daylight tag here and that sun expression, and I'm going to change the time. Make this 11, and you can see nothing's happening again, and that's because it's just like another little checkbox. It's kind of annoying if you don't know it's here. With this basic tab, check on enable, and now we are blending these perfectly, and we're actually using this sunlight expression tag. All right, so now we can control this. So I can change this northern offset here, right? I can increase the sun size, right, if I don't want it to be that sharp. But now I have control over the shadow and the overall look of this. I can say, you know what, I don't want the sun to be that bright. Let's dial that down a little bit. Cool. We can jump back in here and say, maybe this is a little bit too extreme right now. Let's drop it. Let's go something like this, right? A little bit more overhead like we had it, right? Perfect. So you can see here, if I add in
just like a sphere or something, whatever, it doesn't really matter. Just gonna scale this up and make a glossy material. Actually, look, I think I already have just a plain old glossy black material. Put that right on the sphere. You can see we're in fact reflecting our HDRI that we have from this kit. So any HDRI that you plug in here will now be reflected, but the light we're using, the shadow that we're getting, is from this daylight tag. And just like that, we have so much more control over the overall look, right? And you can see here's the visible sun in the specular on this material. You can see that, and then here's the HDRI sun. So what we could try to do, and I don't know if I'm going to even be able to do this, and typically I don't even do this, but let's see if I can match up where and line these up a little bit here. Okay, so maybe that's about the height, and then let's jump back into this and let's change the northern offset. Okay, no, we definitely gotta real close. I could tweak the HDRI a little bit too, right? Let's hop into that. Let's rotate this. Ooh, they're just off, right? And so tweaking things like this, right? And you can, if we can get that specular just right, I'll hop into here. Oh, almost. I don't even know how important this is, but really just the whole idea is just blending it. And now I'm kind of just like nerding out a little bit and being super specific, trying to get this exactly right. Although we really probably don't have to. But that way, just showing you guys how we can control this overall look here. Can I twist it? Oh, almost. There we go, right? Okay, so now we're blending it pretty much perfectly. I could probably just tweak just a couple more, perfect, right? And so now we nailed it. And so that's the whole idea. So if we're rendering this thing out, now we've perfectly blended both the HDRI and that sky together, and we have just so much more control over the shadows and over the overall look, where if we just were to depending on the HDRI to light our scene, we wouldn't be able to do this. You know, I can go in here and say, you know what, these shadows are still, you know, really harsh. I can increase that, or I can say, you know what, I want them to be really harsh and extreme, and so I can bring that sun size down, and now they're right. And so you wouldn't be able to do this with just that HDRI, right? We can go in here and control everything really nicely. Okay, guys, that concludes the video here. Hope you guys enjoyed it. You know, if you guys come up with any other cool Octane quick tips or something like that, make your own videos. You know, this is really how we support the community, how we all learn and grow quicker together, and come up with new things. So I hope these were helpful, and can't wait to give you another video soon. See you. Or just annoying about flow things to speed up your